Welcome to CVR English. This is Naresh Kumar. Let's watch the world news. US President Donald Trump, marking his first year back in office, described it as one of the most successful beginnings in American presidential history. Addressing supporters, he claimed to have inherited a troubled situation but insisted the nation has since become the hottest country anywhere in the world. Citing economic strength, global influence, and national momentum, Trump highlighted the policy changes, economic indicators, border enforcement, and foreign policy initiatives as proof of rapid progress. His remarks come amid ongoing political debate, investigations, and sharp reactions from both critics and supporters, underscoring the divisive nature of his administration's first year.
So we saw a great game tonight. Congratulations to Indiana. It was really turned out to be a great game. Two great teams, wonderful teams with a lot of talent. We enjoyed it very much. Our country's doing very well. We have many, many buildings opening, factories opening. We've never had anything like it. And I think you're going to see results very soon. You're already really seeing them. But we have more money being invested in our country than any country in history. As you know, the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, who's with me right now, has a lot to report. I don't know if you want to say a couple of words, Doug, but you might want to say how well we're doing as a country.
Well, with President Trump's leadership, we've got inflation coming down, we've got investment going up, we've got taxes going down, we've got energy prices down. Everything is aligned for us to have a banner year in 2026, and the interest in building and investing in our country has never been greater.
There's never been anything like it. The money being invested in our country is unparalleled. There's never been anything even close, by many times more than China or any other country. Do you have any questions?
President Davos, or what will be your message to the leaders?
Well, I think I have a lot of messages for Davos, but the primary message is how well the United States is doing. And I say it all the time. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country, and now we have the hottest country in the world. I mean, you're beneficiaries too. If you look, some of you have 401ks. You don't have to tell me. Your numbers are the best they've ever been. And the stock market's at an all-time high. We are just doing great. So I think the message at Davos, we're leaving, going to have an interesting time. We have a lot of meetings scheduled, but the message for Davos is how incredible our country is doing.
Can you speak to your letter that you wrote to Prime Minister saying that the Nobel Prize has influenced your thinking on Greenland?
No, I don't care about the Nobel Prize. First of all, a very fine woman felt that I deserved it and really wanted me to have the Nobel Prize, and I appreciate that. If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says. But I really don't care about that. What I care about is saving lives. And I think I've saved tens of millions of lives. If you look at India, Pakistan, just as won 2 nuclear powers, you look at so many of the countries that were in in some cases, a 35-year war, and I got it done. We stopped 8 wars, and maybe we'll be stopping a 9th very soon. We'll see.
What do you plan to say to European leaders in Davos when they push back on your Greenland plan?
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can't protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but
US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed a confidence that Washington and the European nations would reach a resolution regarding tensions over Greenland. He dismissed what he termed hysteria surrounding fears of a trade war, insisting dialogue would prevail. His remarks followed President Donald Trump's announcement of tariffs on imports from European allies, opposing the US stance on Greenland, an autonomous territory under Denmark. Bessent emphasized that negotiations remain open and constructive solutions are possible despite sharp disagreements. The statement highlights ongoing strain in transatlantic relations as economic measures intervene with geopolitical ambitions over Greenland's strategic importance.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us That's it. And you'll deliver.
If we are in Europe, the center of the great regulatory morass.
How is the Treasury Department and the White House prepared for that? What's the plan if that's something that they begin to do?
Well,
I just want to say this is a false narrative that there is no talk in European governments. This was a report written by Deutsche Bank that this could happen. The media has latched onto this. I think it is a completely false narrative. It defies any logic, and I could not disagree more strongly on that. If you look, the U.S. Treasury market was the best performing market in the world, or the best G7 performing bond market, and we had the best performance since 2020. It is the most liquid market. It is the basis for all financial transactions, and I am sure that the European governments will continue holding it. And as I said, I think everyone needs to take a deep breath, do not listen to the media, who are hysterical, just like they were, just like you all were. Let's just go back to what happened after April 2nd. Hysteria. And what happened? We had the fastest stock market recovery in history. So I think these false narratives, get out there, get spun up out of control. When I was an investor, part of my success was sticking back, looking at the medium and long term, and ignoring the media.
And so just to follow on to that, so you do not believe that the EU or the UK have any retaliatory financial instruments or measures in their bag that the United States should be worried about?
No.
Countries and companies don't know from one day to the next whether they will face new tariffs. What's going to happen with the U.S. agreements on tariffs?
At the World Economic Forum 2026 in Davos, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen concluded her address with strong remarks on Greenland and Arctic security. Signaling a firm stance toward the United States, she cautioned that proposed U.S. tariffs were misguided and reaffirmed Europe's solidarity with Greenland and Denmark. Stressing the sovereignty of this territory, von der Leyen outlined Europe's strategy to boost investment in Greenland, strengthen Arctic defense capabilities, and deepen cooperation with allies including the US, UK, Canada, and Nordic nations. Her comments underscored Europe's determination to balance diplomacy with robust economic and security measures.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken a lot today about European independence, on partnerships, on prosperity and security. So I would like to conclude with Greenland, an issue which cuts to the heart of all three of these imperatives. When it comes to the security of the Arctic region, Europe is fully committed. And we share the objectives of the United States in this regard. For instance, our EU member, Finland, one of the newest NATO members, is selling its first icebreakers to the United States. And this shows that we have the capability right here in the ice, so to speak. It shows that our northern NATO members have Arctic-ready forces right now. And above all, that Arctic security can only be achieved together. And this is why the proposed additional tariffs are a mistake, especially between long-standing allies. The European Union and the United States have agreed to a trade deal last July. And in politics, as in business, a deal is a deal. And when friends shake hands, it must mean something. Ladies and gentlemen, we consider the people of the United States not just our allies, but our friends. And plunging us into a downward spiral would only aid the very adversaries we are both so committed to keeping out of the strategic landscape. So our response will be unflinching, united, and proportional. But beyond this, we have to be strategic about how we approach this issue. And this is why we are working on a package to support Arctic security. First principle, full solidarity with Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark, the sovereignty and integrity of the
The UK Parliament and lawmakers engaged in a heated debate criticizing US President Donald Trump's remarks regarding Greenland. MPs accused him of behaving like an international gangster, warning that such threats could destabilize NATO, undermine European security and disrupt global stability. They argued that Trump's actions risked empowering rival leaders such as Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, while weakening Western alliance. The debate highlighted growing unease among British foreign and their potential consequences for international cooperation. The issue underscored concerns about transatlantic relations and the fragile balance of global power. The European Union has signaled its intent to pursue constructive resolution with the United States amid escalating tensions over Greenland and newly imposed US tariffs. EU Economic Chief Vladimir Dombrovskis stated that all of the options remains available, including the use of the bloc's anti-coercion instrument, as trade relations face renewed strain. His remarks came while EU leaders held urgent discussions on how to respond to President Donald Trump's tariff threats. The statement underscores Europe's cautious but firm approach in defending its economic interests, while attempting to maintain stability in transatlantic ties.
Minister Pierrakakis, could you describe the discussion on the potential retaliatory measures that the EU will consider taking against the US? And for Commissioner Dombrovskis, is the Parliament right in deciding to put the ratification of the EU-US trade deal on hold? Thank you so much.
I would like to start by saying that recent geopolitical developments on Greenland were not formally part of the Eurogroup's agenda today. I think this is only natural because, after all, we were not in Eurogroup inclusive format. Nothing could have been discussed without the Kingdom of Denmark being present at the meeting. But having said that, we were all cognizant of the fact that the meeting is taking place in light of those recent developments. And in this regard, let me reiterate what I said also at my opening statement this morning, that for us, territorial integrity and sovereignty are fundamental principles of international law. They're essential to Europe. They're essential to the international community as a whole. Dialogue is key. Dialogue remains key. Tariffs would overall undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. And Europe must remain united, coordinated, and committed to upholding its sovereignty. And of course, the European Council is expected to convene later this week to take stock of where we stand.
As regards the Second question. First of all, it's clear that this U.S. threat of tariffs in the context of Greenland is not acceptable, and correspondingly, there are now intensive consultations taking place on EU's response in this regard. And as you know, there will be also extraordinary European Council on Thursday to discuss exactly these topics. And therefore it's clear that we need to clarify our way forward. We are seeking engagement with US and finding a constructive solution, but we are also considering other possible responses. We have tools in our disposal to do so, and in that point of view, taking a certain pause while all those developments are now moving may be justified. So there's lots of at stake economically, both for Europe but also for
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni addressed the media after her official meeting with the President of the Republic of Korea. The discussions is centered on enhancing bilateral relations between Italy and South Korea, with a strong emphasis on economic cooperation, international security, and tackling global challenges. Both leaders highlighted the importance of dialogue and collaboration, stressing that closer ties between Europe and Asia are vital for stability and growth. The meeting underscored the shared commitment of the two nations to strengthen diplomatic engagement and expand partnerships across multiple sectors, reflecting broader international cooperation goals.
Lei ha fatto un riassunto perfetto, diciamo, della ragione di questa visita, per la quale ovviamente sono molto contenta, della quale sono molto contenta e per la quale sono molto grata anche per l'accoglienza che io e la mia delegazione abbiamo ricevuto. Ci tenevo molto a onorare la mia promessa di venire in visita qui in Corea, nazione alla quale l'Italia guarda con rispetto, con amicizia, nazione con la quale abbiamo, nonostante la distanza geografica, moltissime similitudini, e una nazione alla quale siamo legati anche da rapporti di amicizia, di reciproco sostegno che arrivano da lontano. Quando ieri ho reso omaggio ai caduti nella guerra di Corea, il governo coreano mi ha donato un libro fotografico dell'ospedale della Croce Rossa con il quale l'Italia fece la sua parte durante la guerra. Erano immagini commoventi e quindi voglio ringraziare il popolo coreano per ricordare ancora questo impegno italiano, che però racconta anche di quanto siano stati lunghi, importanti, solidi i nostri rapporti, e questo, diciamo, stride un po' con l'assenza da 19 anni di un primo ministro in visita ufficiale, il primo ministro italiano in visita ufficiale in Corea. Quindi sono molto contenta di essere il primo leader europeo che viene in visita qui in Corea dalla sua elezione, dal suo insediamento. Le nostre nazioni condividono molti valori, condividono, diciamo, una vocazione verso la creatività e l'innovazione, pur rimanendo ancorate, diciamo, alla loro tradizione, e dal mio punto di vista condividono un potenziale, nonostante i nostri rapporti bilaterali siano estremamente solidi, un potenziale inespresso straordinario che siamo ovviamente qui per esplorare e, diciamo.
At a meeting in London on January 19, 2026, UK Foreign Secretary Vette Koppa and the Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen discussed transatlantic relations and the future of Greenland. The leaders jointly emphasized that Greenland's sovereignty rests with its people and Denmark, firmly rejecting any external tariffs on threats from the United States. They underlined the importance of safeguarding territorial integrity and strengthening allied cooperation in the Arctic, particularly amid rising geopolitical tensions in the region. The dialogue highlighted shared commitments to stability and respect for sovereignty. Official statements and key remarks from both ministers were presented reinforcing the significance of the Allied unity in addressing challenges across the Arctic and beyond.
Today, the UK and Denmark have a long history, going back 1,000 years, of close cooperation, allies through many different issues through very many years. We meet, of course, at a time of an important and serious time for transatlantic discussions and partnerships. And I want to just be very clear about the UK's approach. As the Prime Minister said this morning, the future of Greenland is for the Greenlanders and for the Danes alone. Greenland is a part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and those principles around sovereignty are crucial. It's also why we have made very clear that the use of tariffs and threats against allies in this way is completely wrong and counterproductive.
These times are challenging, to say it at the least. But it's not only a question about the Kingdom of Denmark's relation to US. It's much bigger than that, which was also stated very clearly by your Prime Minister early today. It's about principles. We are living in 2026. You can trade with people, but you don't trade people. And everybody, and especially among friends, have to respect, basic international principles about territorial integrity and sovereignty. And we should.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan expressed their concern over Iran's ongoing unrest, the worst since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, stressing that dialogue and diplomacy are essential to overcome the crisis. Speaking after a cabinet meeting in Ankara, he noted Turkey is closely monitoring developments and warned against destabilizing scenarios that could further strain the region. Erdogan emphasized Ankara's readiness to contribute to reducing tensions, highlighting the importance of regional stability and cooperation. His remarks reflect Turkey's position as a proactive neighbor seeking to safeguard peace in the Middle East amid growing international concerns.
istiyorum. 86 milyonun biz barışı ve istikrarı merkeze alan dış politikamızla bölgemizi belirsizliğe sürükleme riski olan her türlü girişimin karşısında durmayı sürdüreceğiz. Bugün bir kez daha itimatları, teveccühleri, özellikle de bize göre her türlü sorunun çözüm adresi karşılıklı güven ilişkisine dayalı ateşkes ve tam entegrasyon anlaşmasının gerekleri süratle yerine getirilmeli. Hiç kimse bir kere daha yanlış hesap yapmamalıdır. Ortak şehitlerimizin olduğu Suriye'deki toprak bütünlüğü haiz bir ve beraber Suriye'nin tüm bölgemizin refahı için vazgeçilmez olduğu inancındayız. Üzmek istiyorum. 86 milyonun emanetini taşıyan bir kadro olarak biz Suriyeli kardeşlerimizin önü de ufku da bahtı da açıktır. Suriye halkının kardeşi, komşusu ve kara gün dostu bir ülke olarak
Venezuelan opposition leader Henrique Capriles has called on the government to provide clarity regarding the proposed overhaul of the hydrocarbons law. He emphasizes that detailed regulations are essential to attract foreign investment and stabilize the struggling economy. President Delcy Rodriguez recently submitted reform plans aimed at opening the oil sector to new investment flows, but specifics of the amendments remain undisclosed. Capriles argued that without transparency and reforms risk failing to achieve their intended goals. His remarks highlighted ongoing tensions between the government and opposition over economic policy and the future of Venezuela's vital energy sector.
Hemos tenido la oposición durante más de 20 años. Más de 20 años. Uno, estabilización y recuperación económica. Dos. Claro, tema de, claro.
¿Cómo ven? Usted hablaba de ese giro de 180 grados en la relación entre...
Estamos entrando en una transición, ocurrido lo que ya ocurrió, salió Maduro del...
Yo sí creo que hay una oportunidad en el país, a pesar de todo lo que ha sucedido. Creemos que hay una oportunidad. Creemos que hay una oportunidad. Y hay que avanzar. Y sobre la ley de hidrocarburos, es una de las leyes más importantes, que es un país petrolero, que aspira el gobierno con la reforma de la ley de hidrocarburos. La quieres construir con la mayor amplitud posible. ¿Cuál es el alcance del acuerdo energético? ¿Qué quieres cambiar de la ley de hidrocarburos?
...que lo que hacía hasta ahora?
Mira, Osmari, nosotros tenemos la expectativa que esto cambie, y nosotros queremos que esto cambie. Nosotros queremos, como le pregunta a uno la gente en la calle, si van a inyectar dólares en el mercado cambiario, producto de la venta del petróleo que es de los venezolanos, porque el petróleo tiene que ser de los venezolanos.
Vietnam has inaugurated its 14th Communist Party Congress in Hanoi, a crucial political gathering set to shape the nation's leadership and economic policies through 2030. Party chief Tu Lam pledged ambitious annual economic growth exceeding 10% for the remainder of the decade. Despite global challenges that Congress convened every 5 years will also determine whether Lam continues in his leadership role as he advances sweeping bureaucratic and governance reforms. The meeting underscores Vietnam's determination to strengthen its economic trajectory and political stability while navigating complex international and domestic pressures.
Cộng hòa xã hội chủ nghĩa Việt Nam 1945-2045.
Cái chủ chiến lược tự cường, tự tin, dân chủ, giàu mạnh, phồn vinh, văn minh. Đại hội chúng ta tưởng nhớ và bày tỏ lòng biết ơn sâu sắc đối với các thế hệ cách mạng tiền bối đã lao động sáng tạo, cống hiến trí tuệ và tài năng, bước ngoặt mang tính lịch sử, hướng tới kỷ niệm đoàn chủ tịch đại hội. Thưa các đồng chí đại biểu, các vị khách quý, chúng ta nồng nhiệt chào mừng các đồng chí